Yo, what's up? I'm Eldritch Terror, and welcome back to my channel where I like to talk about all things spooky, scary, and have a little bit of fun. Lately, I've been seeing people complaining that there haven't been a lot of HHN news going around, while simultaneously seeing insiders saying that we have enough information out right now to possibly make a whole new spec map for HNN. Today, we're going to go over all of the new information that's been released since my last video, as well as everything that we've covered so far on this channel regarding Halloween Horror Nights news, rumors, and speculation from both coasts. We're going to be talking about IPs, we're going to be talking about originals, we're going to be talking about every clue that has dropped so far this year, at least the credible ones, the ones that I believe hold some weight to them. I decided to make today's video for two reasons. One, because we have some juicy new news to dive into, and two, because I saw this post on the HHN subreddit of this person saying that we haven't really seen this much this year. I mean, at least compared to other years previously. This user writes, "Things have been quiet. Is it just me, or do things seem pretty quiet surrounding HHN this year? Yes, I know Epic and Vegas are huge projects that are occupying a lot of attention, but I feel this time last year we had more buzz and activity with rumors and discussions. And while I'm not 100% sure if this holds any weight behind it, I am just as eager and excited as anybody else to dive into some HHN news. I mean, it's the best time of year, of course we're going to be excited for it. And for those looking for something big, this might pique your interest." Responding to a post in which a user wrote, "If they aren't low-key loaded with new info or ideas, they aren't going to make a map, and they shouldn't. The question though is, when are things going to start becoming more clear, if at all?" And to this, Legacy responds, "I actually had a chat with them a few days ago, specifically about how anxious fans are for the next map. There is enough for a spec map right now, but they aren't solid enough on any of it to feel comfortable pushing one. It's the same reason I've slowed down on my clues. Orlando is locked down pretty tight, unless you're someone who is more frivolous about rumors than us cynic old-timers. Hollywood has more stuff floating around, but that doesn't necessarily apply to the East Coast. By the end of the video today, we should have enough information to put together our own spec map. We should be able to make at least something close to resembling an official spec map by the end. And now before I dive into all of this, let me cover a subject that I've covered previously in one of my videos. A lot of the information that we talk about today is very speculative, and all of the stuff that we're going to be talking about pretty much comes from sources that I trust personally. These are sources that I followed last year that had the nails pretty hard down, and they've shown me and many others that they are credible. So if you don't want to believe any of this, if some of this crushes your dreams and fantasies and you just want to push it all away, totally understand. Blame it on these guys. Until anything is released by Universal, nothing is in stone. And honestly, regardless of whether or not what these people are hearing is correct, things are always subject to change. So I think that that's going to be a big theme going into today's video, that things are going to be subject to change, and that's where a lot of these competitive rumors come into play. But let's see what these insiders have to say, huh? So first up today, we got some brand new IP news. This post reads, "According to HHN Insider Legacy, a Scream 6 house is rumored to be coming to Halloween Horror Nights this year. While he hasn't specified, we would assume that this is for Orlando and Hollywood. We're not buying this rumor just yet, but what do you think?" Alright, so let me explain the whole Scream thing to you. I spent the time going to all the forums and all the Discord sites and sourcing out all the messages and everything, talking about what's going on here, but I think it'd just be easier for me to TLDR it for you. So Legacy put out a riddle. It was a quote from Moby Dick, basically saying that Horror Nights was going to be getting a white whale IP of sorts. And after some back and forth with the commenters on that thread, they basically deduced that it was going to be Scream, and that was seemingly confirmed when he asked, okay, but which one? Down the line, the people followed a breadcrumb trail all the way down to Scream 6. But when you look at the fine print here, and it's even reflected in the tweet that I just showed you a moment ago, they're not 100% sure. Like, he didn't just outright come out and say that it was going to be Scream 6. It was more so just alluded to, and that's what people decided on. So it could very well be Scream. Could be Scream 6. I've seen people say it could be Scream 5 and 6 or something else to the effect. But what I want you to do as an exercise is just close your eyes for a minute and think about all of the white whale IPs that we've almost had, could have had, and wanted to have at Halloween Horror Nights. Whatever comes to mind right now is just as likely as Scream, in my opinion. So hit those comments down below and let me know what you think your white whale Halloween Horror Nights IP would be. But now, let's recap everything that we know so far. Let's go over everything that we've heard so far this year, basically picking up at Christmas with that spec map and moving forward. So the very first thing that we had to go off of this year was these permits that dropped. So one of the very first rumors that started going around this year was an insane rumor that there could be 11 or maybe even 12 houses featured at Horror Nights this year. This would be big because, yeah, they've never done that before. But with the closure of Rip Ride Rocket and the rumors of maybe some houses returning this year, did strike some validity to that. Then we got the permit list that dropped. So this is what Universal Orlando filed for their permits this year. This is everything that they applied to build this season. And there's a couple interesting things to note here. So first of all, every year Universal codes what the houses are going to be by giving them some kind of a dummy name, like a placeholder. And it seems like the theme that they went for this year is all flowers. We've got Tent 1 Carnation, Soundstage 24B Lily, Soundstage 23A Snapdragon, Soundstage 23B Violet, Soundstage 25 Poinsettia, Soundstage 22 Poppy. In the Fast and Furious building we have Jasmine, B138A Daisy, Tent 2 Iris, and B138B Tulip. So there's not much we can discern from the dummy names for this. I mean, people have tried to guess at that, really haven't come up with much. The way that they tie these dummy names into things is very loose and doesn't really amount to too much in the end. But what is interesting is that with this whole idea that there could be 11 or 12 houses this year, they've only filed 10 permits. So one would think that that would completely debunk that rumor, right? So case closed, right? There's only 10 houses on the permit list. There's no way that we could be having 11 or 12 houses this year. One of our trusted insiders here has a little bit of insight on that. Known and credited HHN insider Legacy made a post on the Universal forums talking about this. And this post right here is very interesting. Here he writes, "Okay, I'm seeing a lot more catching about my Insidious is the 11th house theory. I'm gonna lay out the evidence as I see and know it. This will actually give a bit of a peek behind my curtain, especially regarding timelines of when I hear things. Everything here is independent of HRRR discussion and focuses only rumors, facts, assumptions, and my personal knowledge regarding Insidious and HHN. Timeline. Early December, I hear Insidious could come back. Mid-December, I hear 12 houses may be possible. And I heard these two rumors from two completely disconnected sources I'd like to clarify. And on the first of the year, 10 permits drop with 24A missing. Now this is very true, 24A is missing from this permit list, and that is very interesting because that's not one that they would normally skip out on. I mean, even on the speculation maps that we've seen from this year, on all of them, they have 24A accounted for. Moving on, he adds, here's exactly what we know. Last year, Insidious was in 24A, and we do not currently have a permit for that building. If a house is already built, it does not need new build permits if reused the following year. We can see this specifically from 2020 to 2021, where new permits did not need to drop for completed houses that were not stuck. In 2015, when Universal increased from 8 to 9 houses, they did so by returning a House of the Year IP, American Werewolf. The reception to that return is irrelevant to the logic and methodology. Insidious 6 had an original release date of the 29th of August 2025. That date got pushed to 2026 on January 30th of 2025, so after a decision would have been made for an Insidious house to return. That means Universal could have logically planned for the house to return as a tie-in to the new movie. Soundstage 24A is a single building that can only be rented as a single space. It is not two different buildings. So, what can we logically assume based on the evidence? Because in the past, venues with only one house did not differentiate between A and B Soundstage 24. If it only contains one house, regardless of size, it does not need to differentiate between A and B. Legacy concludes, writing, "What I know, what I'm confident on. You can disregard it, but this is a lot of background knowledge from, you know, being me," referring to his relevancy as an insider. The teardown of houses can run into December and January. In the past, there has been as few as 3 weeks between a soundstage getting cleared and prep work beginning for the next year. That timeline was almost 10 years ago, and it would logically be much shorter now. The line between the A and B and soundstages is ephemeral. It shifts from year to year based on the house's design. It's not a definitive painted line used for permitting purposes. Changing the decor of a house, but not changing any load-bearing walls or electricity does not require a new permit. Again, this is all speculative theory. I will equate a possibility that the house slated for 24A moved potentially to 25 after plans were finalized for 24B, and so 24B was not updated for a minor administrative thing. It's also possible that my theory was accurate and Insidious 6 had its release date moved, after which Universal decided to strike the house with no replacement. While I doubt the idea that 24B as the only permit is purely administrative mistake, it's too ingrained in the house's plan and seen by too many people to get missed like that. There's an outside chance that that is what's happened. So there's the logic. Again, there's an element of conspiracy brain cope to the theory, but the evidence aligns in a way that makes it nearly impossible to make me shake. We've even heard this 11 to 12 house rumor from multiple insiders at this point, and the situation was even teased by Michael Aiello himself when he posted this tweet signaling that construction had started. With 12, count 'em, 12 roses decaying in the background. Okay, so we could possibly have 11 houses, maybe even 12 this year. That would be wild, wouldn't it? Especially with Insidious coming back. I mean, they really did push that house hard last year. Like, maybe they knew that they were thinking about bringing it back, and they just had to hype it up to the maximum. And I went through it, I liked it, it was a good house. But the entire year, people were freaking out about how this was like the scariest house that they've ever been to. And while the scare factor was pretty high for Halloween Horror Nights, I mean, they've had other crazy stuff like that in the past. In my personal opinion, scariest haunted house that I've ever been through in Halloween Horror Nights was Nightingale's Blood Pit. That might sound crazy to you. Maybe I had a really good run of it. My first time going through that house was at like 2:30 in the morning when I was so exhausted. And when you go through the nest at the end and they're all popping out all over the place, like, man, that really got me. And I'm like a seasoned haunt guy. Like, oh wow, look at me, I'm a seasoned haunt guy. No, but for real, I am, and that really stuck out to me. So I don't know, I didn't really feel that same way in Insidious is my point. But the Insidious house was awesome. That's not my point. What I'm trying to say here is they sold on that one really hard, and I could see them trying to bring it back, or at least redoing it up and trying to do something in the same capacity. If they wanted to just leave the walls up and change the decor, I mean, that's something that they've done before. Talking again about Scream, when we were supposed to get that as an IP years ago, they canceled it at the last minute and had to turn the whole thing into a purge house. And they made it work. I mean, it was still kind of recognizable, but they made it work. Let me know in the comments what you thought the scariest house that you've ever been to at Horror Nights was. But let's talk for a minute about things that we thought were coming and now no longer think are. First of all, we got Stranger Things. It was heavily speculated by a lot of people that Stranger Things could be coming, especially when looking at the ghost on the Christmas Spec map holding up the 5 strings of lights. A lot of people thought that this could be Stranger Things. I think I was one of them as well. But one of our most trusted insiders has seemingly put that one to bed. No Stranger Things this year. Maybe they're holding out a little bit so people don't get IP fatigue. That's a big problem at this event. I know that a lot of people are already feeling it with Stranger Things. Holding out for a year and maybe even doing like a massive house when 6 is out and just doing 5 and 6 to close the whole thing up would be really cool, and I'm excited to see where that goes in the future, but not this year. The same insider also deaded some rumors that Universal Monsters would be coming back. Yeah, the Universal Monsters houses have been a staple at HHN for a long time, and they're usually some of the best houses of the year. Last year, the house fell a little flat for a lot of people. I thought it was cool. I mean, I guess it didn't really stand toe-to-toe with some of the other ones that we've seen over the years, but it seems that this year they may be scrapping that all together in favor for a fresh IP. And lastly, we're going to talk about The Last of Us Part 2. Yeah, The Last of Us Part 2 was heavily speculated to be coming to the event as well. Everybody was really happy about that first round of haunted houses at both coasts, and I think that they're excited to see Part 2 come too. And early in the year, we heard that we were getting a PlayStation property coming to the event, so naturally, that's what everybody assumed they were talking about. But assume no longer, because they may be saving The Last of Us Part 2 for when that second season comes out on HBO. Yeah, now we're looking at the PlayStation property of Fallout coming to the event. Now, I know that Fallout doesn't really strike people directly on the head as horror, but man, if you've played these games, you'd know that there's some messed up stuff going on in there. I mean, the whole thing takes place in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, and the radiation-mutated monsters are not few and far between. There's a lot of really cool stuff that they could do with this, and we're not sure if they're going to be doing it from the movies or the games, but given Universal's track record of always going with the game side of the properties, I think that that's probably what we're getting. So now that we got all that insider leakage out of the way, let's talk a little bit about the Christmas Spec map and the talks that happened because of that. So the first 2 things that were on everybody's mind when this dropped is 1, that the Santa Claus beard definitely gave Terrifier vibes, and that 2, one of the Christmas boxes just had to be Five Nights at Freddy's, because the rabid Five Nights at Freddy's fans need Five Nights at Freddy's to come to Halloween Horror Nights. And when we dive into these 2 properties and their probabilities of coming to the event, we can see that there's 2 very distinct differences going on here. In Terrifier's case, Damien Leone has actually had conversations with the Horror Nights executives online. He has publicly and greatly expressed his interests on wanting to have Terrifier featured at the event. He thinks that it would be great. But the Five Nights at Freddy's owner is a little bit more hard-headed from what I've heard. Universal has been trying to work with Five Nights at Freddy's for years now, and their creator apparently just has some kind of crazy ideas that Horror Nights doesn't feel like they can do, and they've just had to cut communication on that. It's unfortunate. I know that there are a lot of Five Nights at Freddy's fans, and I'd like to think that eventually it will come to the event in some capacity, that they'll be able to figure something out. But as for this year, there are no rumors or plans of Five Nights at Freddy's coming at all. Terrifier, on the other hand, is more than likely going to be the docking slasher IP for the whole event. I mean, look, I know that that's like a lot to say, but Terrifier has become a hit in the market, and it's going to bring in some general audiences, as well as bring that Halloween Horror Nights slasher house vibe that we're always looking for. Now, another one on this map that people speculated a lot on is this little toy box thing. Now, the first thing that came to a lot of people's minds is that this had to be another Horrors of Blumhouse situation, that they were going to do Megan, Imaginary, Black Phone 2, and that's what the program was going to be. And while I've seen evidence that that could be true, I've also seen some things kind of to the contrary. Our insiders seem to think that the Megan house is going to be a standalone house this year, and that it's not going to be a Horrors of Blumhouse kind of thing. But they also state that this is going to be more of a mashup house containing a bunch of sequels slammed together. So what could we be getting here? Is it possible that we could have a Horrors of Blumhouse house as well as a Megan house? Well, let me turn your attention to another rumor that I've been seeing that also rivals with the spot, I think. People have been saying that something or anything from the Conjuring universe could be coming to Halloween Horror Nights this year. The Conjuring universe is vast. There's so many things to pick from. They have so many movies, so many characters, so many monsters that they could base a house around. We could see anything from like a Horrors of Conjuring, where we get like a little bit of the Conjuring, a little bit of Annabelle, a little bit of the Nun, or maybe we could just see like a whole Conjuring universe where it's like a little bit of like all of their properties slammed into one. Or maybe we could see a house based on just one of those properties. I don't know, what would you like to see? When it comes to Horror Nights speculation, I mean, the bucket is endless. Okay, so the last two things I gotta touch on before we construct our new map, before we tie it all together and figure out what we might be looking at this year, is that our first original house rumor of this year is that something from Slaughter Cinema could be coming. Our first original house rumor this year is that much like the Yeti and its saga of houses that came from Slaughter Cinema 1, Slaughter Cinema 2 will be spawning something as well. Now, we have no idea which one of the properties from this house is going to be turned into a full-fledged house from here. But what we do know is that the whole Yeti thing started out as just a simple swamp Yeti, but they turned it into Yeti Terror of the Yukon and later Campground Kills in such fantastical fashion. So it's very possible that whatever we get is going to house the core idea of something from Slaughter Cinema 2, but not be 100% on the nose with it. People have been excited for the Hatchet and Chains, the Mardi Gras Massacre, Heavy Metal Hell 3D, or the Undead Clowns. I mean, there's just so many cool things from there that you could pull from. It's both worthy to note and unfortunate that the Mardi Gras Massacre one is kind of everybody's favorite at this point, it seems. But with the terrible event that happened in New Orleans earlier this year, it's not likely that we're going to be getting that one. Just saying. I don't know though, I could be wrong. We'll see. There's a lot of really good ideas to pick from there, and I'm just saying I don't think they'd pick the least sensitive one. But if you feel like your head's gonna explode because you've just heard way too much rumors and spec and you just don't know what to believe or think about what all these insiders are saying, well, guess what? I've got the craziest one for last. So the little ghosty guy with the string of lights. Some people believe it could be Stranger Things Season 5. Some people believe it could be Scream 5 and 6. And in another camp, we have people believing that this could be a Wyatt Sicks haunted house based on the WWE property from Brey Wyatt. Now, this one would be an interesting one, and seemingly a polarizing one at that. When it comes to WWE and when it comes to Brey Wyatt, you either get it or you don't. You either love it or you're just scratching your head and kind of turned off by the whole thing. But let me tell you that the people over at HHN love wrestling. This wouldn't be the first time a WWE superstar has even had a haunted house at Horror Nights. And remember, it's Horror Nights that we're talking about. No matter what property they have, they're gonna find a way to serve it up on a platter and make it amazing for us. And like, if we're gonna have 11 or 12 houses, then like, who cares? I mean, there's gonna be so much variety, just throw them all at me. I'm ready. But see, the whole thing about Brey Wyatt and the Wyatt Sicks is that he's a wrestler that passed away a few years ago. Recently, his brother has taken on a stable in wrestling where 5 other wrestlers and him got together and put together a tag team in memoriam of his brother, Brey Wyatt, their spiritual leader from beyond the grave. So when you look at the little ghosty holding the lights, I could see that being like the spirit of Brey Wyatt holding up the lights of the fireflies or whatever. It'd be very touching, but it could also very well just be Scream. I don't know. But with all that said, how about we round it all up, jump on over and see what we got for a map so far this year. Let's look at the spec maps and look at other spec maps that have come out so far. Okay, so before I break this all down for you, let me explain to you why we're using the Horror Night Nightmare spec maps. I've seen all kinds of spec maps going around on the internet, but any true Horror Nights fan will tell you these guys always have it for us. I don't know what kind of sources they got, but they got them. No disrespect to Hallowed Out Horror or any of these other places that put out maps, but I mean, if you look at the maps that HNN puts out before there's any announcements that even drop compared to the ones that these guys are putting out when announcements are already out in the air, it's just like very obvious when you look in hindsight at these things. So we're going with the Horror Night Nightmares maps today. So if you've been keeping up with all the rumors and following along with all the speculation that we've seen so far this year for Halloween Horror Nights, then this should be relatively what your spec map is looking like for this year. And I know this is a lot of IPs, so the odds of all of this happening is probably slim. It's possible that multiple of these are contenders for the same house location and that things aren't exactly done being finalized yet, and that's why we're having so many random rumors coming around right now. But nonetheless, this is what's being talked about. So looking at this here, we have 7 IPs on the board. And of them, we have Terrifier, Insidious, Megan 2, something from the Conjuring universe, Fallout, Scream 6, as well as the Wyatt Sicks. And the only original that we have speculated on so far this year is Slaughter Cinema 2. Looking at this all right now, if I really squint and look at it, I could see how maybe Megan and the Conjuring could be in contention for the same location. I mean, the clues that we've received so far from that both point to something from the Conjuring universe or another possible Horrors of Blumhouse location, featuring Megan 2, Black Phone 2, and other things of the sort. And when we look at the spec map and we see the little ghost guy holding up the string of lights, this both gives me everything that I need to believe that this could be a Wyatt Sicks house and that it could be like a Scream house. With the debate going on of what Scream movie it's gonna be, this could be a good clue that maybe it's Scream 5 and not actually Scream 6 that we're gonna be getting. I don't know. Maybe it could be a combination of the two. I'm still holding out hope for that Brey Wyatt house though. That would be really cool. I know that Scream would probably bring a little bit more attention to the park that they normally get. Hey, we'll see what happens. Insidious is also another one that's kind of on the fence, and the only ones that have enough strong facts for them to really make me think they're coming is Terrifier and Fallout at this point. Well, and I guess another Slaughter Cinema inspired house. I mean, those always hit. We need a little original speculation going on here. As for my placement of all of these, I left the Rocking Horse and the Dove open because honestly, I just don't know how any of these things particularly relate to those and expect those to maybe be original based. I don't know though. Maybe you guys will pick up some clues that I don't see here. Alright, so that's what we got so far. How are you feeling about it? And if you're a Hollywood head and you think that I'm talking a little bit too much about Orlando, just know that most of what we're talking about here is IPs, and that's very commonly shared on both coasts. It's also very possible that some of these IPs we could be hearing about coming to Orlando, we could be confusing with rumors that are actually going to Hollywood, so pay attention until anything's announced. But how do you feel about everything that we've talked about today? How do you feel about this little mock-up spec map that I made? Even I can admit that it doesn't look 100% right. Like, this isn't gonna be right, but that's why it's a spec map. I'm very confident in the IPs that I spoke about here being the ones that are being discussed and possibly having houses built for them right now. But what I cannot be positive about is that any one of these particular IPs will be coming to the event. If I had to put a number on this, I'd guess that maybe 2 of the things I put on this board probably aren't gonna be there, and that's not talking about any 2 things in particular, that's just talking about my odds. But how do you feel about it? What on this list are you excited for? What's not on this list that you want to see come? Would you be excited if we had a insane 7 IPs at the event with 12 houses? I know a lot of people really like originals and would hate to see that happen, but I mean, hey, it'd be one to remember. I'm telling you that right now. That would be crazy. The lines for the original houses, especially the ones in the back, would be so short, I'd be marathoning those things. But that's all that we got for today, so if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content just like it. And don't forget to send it over to a friend you think might enjoy it too. I'm still new over here on YouTube, and I could use all the help I could get. As always, I've been Eldritch Terror, and whether your day's been going good or bad today, I hope it gets better.